Hello and welcome to Scouted by GreyB, where we bring you real innovations from noteworthy startup straight from their C-suite. Today we are in talks with the CEO of 456 Skin, Noelly Michoux. She is one of those people whose enthusiasm is contagious. At the same time, you will find them to be an expert in their own field. At 456 Skin, we will learn about their ways of doing responsible innovation throughout their products. So we'll see how they are innovating on the hydrating layers of the cosmetics, on the preservatives, on the active ingredients parts also, and ultimately still being eco-friendly. We will also get to know how their products are different from the existing cosmetics and how they are challenging the existing landscape. So let's take a deep dive in.
So the reason why, because this is a question that people usually start with, why are you called 456? What does it mean? It's a very unusual name for a cosmetic brand. We call this brand 456 Skin because of a skin classification scale called the Fitzpatrick scale, which was established in the 70s by an American dermatologist called Fitzpatrick, who classified human beings into different phototypes, right? The phototype being determined by how much melanin you have in your skin. And it goes a little bit further than that. It kind of impacts your phototype, impacts how your skin reacts to sunlight, to cosmetic ingredients, to cosmetic procedures. And usually phototype are a very strong indication of differences in the skin structure, in the function, in the microbiome, the physiology, and even we go as far as seeing the psychological impact of your skin tone on your skin health and even your well-being. And when you look at the skincare industry, unfortunately, our industry is a little over 8 years old. Our entire research stack, so the research, the development, the testing, it goes even further back with the dermatology, which is a world that skincare gets a lot of inspiration from. Everything that we know about skin has been based on people that have skin phototype 1, 2, and 3, which are white people. Phototype 4, 5, and 6 is what we usually call people of color, right? The global majority, black skin, brown skin. Phototype 4 are all over the world. They represent over actually 50% of the world population and growing. You find them in Africa, the whole of South Asia, the Middle East, in America, and all of the indigenous population in Australia, the diaspora in Europe, and all the mixed skin in between. That is over 50% of the world population that has not been included in skincare science. And we kind of live in a world that has always looked at skin from the point of view of color only. And so that has left us with an heritage of assumptions, misunderstanding, confusions, and people of color just have the worst skincare outcomes in the world. And so 456 Skin is a brand that actually started with a research project. So we started our research project in 2019. We were incubated with the LVMH Research Center in France for a year. That was really good for us. And then we decided to just continue the research. And we did something a little bit bold, just looking around and understanding that the ecosystem in terms of manufacturers and lab and researchers and testing companies were just not focusing on darker skin tones and they were not interested in doing the work. We created the world's first skin tone research lab in France to really further this understanding of the unique structural and functional differences of darker skin tone and understand how we can create a new skincare philosophy that actually works for them. So since 2019, that is the work that we've been doing, really going in depth and understanding how genetics, metabolism, the physiology, how all of that impacts skin. how should we create hydration system for people of color when we know that the structure of the skin is different, is denser? How do we address the fact that the skin has a higher intercellular lipid content, and then acne is something that they're very prone to? How do we address dullness, which is a fact of dryness and a slower skin metabolism? And maybe you live in Singapore and in India, you may not have this fact with your skin, but for us, people of color who live here in Europe, our skin metabolism is just sluggish because we don't have enough sun energy. But more importantly, how do we tackle hyperpigmentation, which is the top concern for people of color all over the world? How do we create hyperpigmentation solution with the understanding of what melanin really is, like how we should treat melanin, finding solution to treat but not bleach, to treat not inflame, and do it with a foundation of absolute clean beauty, high biocompatibility with the ingredients, and making sure that we are not using nanoplastics, conservation system that are endocrine disruptors, and that we're creating true skin health for people of color. That has been our work for the past 4 years. That is the mission. Is a big one for a small brand to take on, but it is our honor. It is something that we're very passionate about, and the way that we set up the brand was to start with customization, and customization really has allowed us to kind of fine tune that understanding of what works, what doesn't work with that customer, that community validation, and continuous iteration. And right now we are at that phase. I will call it phase two. Phase one was 4 years. But thank you. We're almost we're out of it. Phase two is now we have product that work. They've been validated by the community. We are looking at next steps, which is to launch the brand in with a retail partner in the UK. So yes,
Wow.
that is what we've been doing. It is challenging, it's exciting, it's frustrating to work with an industry that does not care and that does not understand, but
Yeah,
it's a huge passion for us. And I believe that the industry hasn't done this work and someone has to do it, and that's what 456 has been doing. Yeah.
absolutely. And a very logical and a very inspirational reason behind all the work that you guys are doing, I think. Uh, and you're right. In general, when I have worked with people in the cosmetics industry, one of the reasons I remember a project where we were working, and the European manufacturers, specifically based out of France, they actually were stumbled by their products low acceptance in China. And it was, the reason was very similar to what you're talking about, that their skin was more sensitive, and there was more humidity and more sweating that was going on, because of which the traditional uh, European
Yeah.
designed or American designed cosmetics were actually failing to give the same effects that they gave in Europe or North America in general. So I
Yeah.
can relate very well to the reasons and to the logics that you have shared with me and with our audience. Uh, Maybe it would be great if we can go a bit deeper into the innovation side of things. So you talked about a lot of things. You talked about hydration, and you talked about the denser structures of the skin, and you talked about microbiome preservation. So how does
Yeah.
456 achieve that? And maybe I'll ask the second question later, but I mean, maybe we can start with the innovative part. What's different between somebody
Yeah.
which is a large cosmetic player and they may be making similar products as compared to you guys?
Yeah. I think if I really want to make it concrete for you, right? We talk
Yeah,
about the mission and all of it, and these are all, it's very inspiring, very beautiful works, right?
yeah,
But skincare is about formulation. It's really about what goes in the bottle, right?
yeah.
And if you look at, I don't know if you're familiar with skincare formulations at all, but if you look at what goes in the bottle, right? In the West, we are very strong with when it comes to creating something that looks beautiful, that feels amazing, that smells amazing, right?
Yeah.
We've really nailed that part. But if you take a cosmetic formulation today and look what goes inside and you kind of decompose it, you will find that over 70% of the bottle content is water,
Water.
right?
Yes.
That is the main ingredient in the
Yes.
skincare. It can be even more for certain typologies of products. So that's your first layer. The second layer is what we call the texture agents, right? What are the functional ingredients that you use to create a texture that people would like? The texture that makes the product easily applicable, right? So that's the second layer. The third layer is that preservation system. How would you preserve your formula so it would sit in a retail space for a year or two? And then at the top, we have what we call active ingredients, right?
Yes.
And we love this. These are our marketing heroes, the vitamin C's of the world, the retinol, the Exil, or the AHA and the BHAs. They come
Yes.
at the top, and that makes your skincare formula. Now, if you go back to the first component, which is water, you would see that the almost entirety of the industry uses what we call demineralized water, right? Nothing wrong with it. It is
Yeah.
O2, it's a good molecule. But this water, for cosmetic purposes, goes through layers and layers of UV radiation treatment, effectively rendering the water kind of
Yes.
useless to the skin. It kind of becomes this functional ingredient that's there to help with the mixing. When we see that water can be such a powerful ally for the skin. And when we looked at one of the main issue of darker skin tone, which is before we even talk about hyperpigmentation, is hydration, right? Hydration
Yes.
is the base of skin health. If your skin is dehydrated, you're in trouble. You're going to
Yes.
get a sensitized skin. Your skin barrier is going to get weakened. You get more infection. You know, I always say that dehydration is the mother of most skincare concerns. That part right there, and not a lot of people really understand the massive importance of water, in skincare or in general. So we looked at it and we were like, okay, we understand that darker skin tones because the skin has a denser structure. The science showed that we actually have four more layers in the stratum corneum, which is great because it offers certain aging advantages, right? The skin is going to have more collagen, more elastin, means we're going to
Yes.
age differently. Have you ever seen 50-year-old woman of color versus 50-year-old white woman?
Yeah.
That's why it's that thickness of the skin that gives you more collagen. And so that's a great advantage. But the challenge that comes with that is hydration and nutrients. It's challenging for them to reach all the skin layers, right? And if you look at the hydration approach in the West, which works for white skin, right? White skin
Yes.
live in their environment where their ancestors evolved. So their skin structure is completely different. The skin has the ability to draw moisture from the atmosphere and keep it, right? And
Yes.
so when you're creating a moisturizer for white skin, you just need occlusives, like the hydration gets in, how to keep it in, that's fine. You use the same technique of darker skin tone, it doesn't work, right? For multiple reasons, because the skin structure is a little bit wider. The skin suffers from what we call transepidermal water loss, where the
Yes.
skin just does not have the capability to retain water. Um, and so, and then when you look at that, water becomes something very interesting. So we created this very unique water. This is actually our proprietary ingredient.
Got it.
It's a vitalized water. Cannot really tell all of the secrets behind how we do it, but this is water that we rework in our lab, and that kind of gives water back its property, higher cleansing property, higher hydration property, amazing antioxidant, soothing to the skin. But the most important thing about this water is that it becomes a vector for other ingredients, right? And when we
Yes.
know that the skin needs this vectorization system, if you use a moisturizer that just sits on top of your skin, we're not doing the job, right? So
Yes.
our water is really the prime phase of our innovation, that we use this different water that's a massive vector for all the skincare ingredients to deliver those nutrients all the way through the skin layers, beside the fact that it has a higher hydration ability, antioxidant, and all of that. So that is your step one, big thing. You look at the second component in skincare, which, as I said, texture agents, right? And then look at what the mainstream skincare industry uses to create textures, right? Nanoplastics, silicones, carbamase, esters. These are all brilliant to create amazing texture. I mean, you can take a product from La Mer. When you apply it, it really feels like you've reached heaven. But when you look at the implications of these
Yeah.
ingredients in skin, they are irritant, lots of them. They are pro-inflammatory, which we know that now inflammation and darker skin tone doesn't go together, because when the skin
Yes.
is inflamed, hyperpigmentation happens. And a lot of them are what we call endocrine disruptors. So, not a really good thing for young men and women using skincare. And
Yeah.
so, again, what we did here was to say, how can we create texture agents that do not have all of these issues? And we created our own system where we use plant derived texture agents that are non ionized. And these agents are able to create beautiful texture, but also really participate in the solution because they are soothing to the skin, to participate to the hydration system, and so forth.
Got
Third
it.
layer, conservation system. Again, you look at conservations, the parabens of the world, the phenoxyethanol of the world. Again, very powerful preservatives, right? They do a great job. But again, so many scientific reports showing that these ingredients, again, they are pro-inflammatory. They are endocrine disruptors as well. So we also have our proprietary preservation system, which is all natural that we use. Now, look at how we fill the bottle here. By the time you get to the conservation system, you fill your bottle up to 90-95%, right? If you're not doing a good job with the foundation of your formula, then what are you really creating for the skin? And I know that our industry loves the kind of innovations that goes, we've created this new molecule and this new technology. And I always laugh and I see it was like, yeah, that beautiful technology is going to sit in a bed of shit, basically, right? Plastics and plastics and plastics. It's quite pointless to, I mean, it's great for
Yes.
marketing and sales, but if your focus is to create skin health, this is not it. We need to review the fundamentals of skincare because they're not right. And
Yes.
so that's really what we did with our research. Go back to the basics, make the basics better, make them work for human skin, for human health, make them work for the planet as well. Excluding plastic is such an important fact, an important facet of what we do. When you see all these scientific reports telling you that the skin has the ability to absorb up to 60% of what you put on top. So we are all sitting here absorbing these plastics. They are roaming free in our organs, in our body, and
Yes.
the human body has not evolved to recycle plastic. We don't know how to recycle plastic. So what are these plastic doing in our body, right? And we're just living very inflammatory lives. And then when we use ingredient with plastic, all these nanoplastic ends up where? In the sea, in our water. So just not a good thing for anyone. No one wants to have this conversation because all the big brands are using this ingredient and it's kind of just like shut, 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 shut. You do not have the right to say these things, but this is how we work.
Got
When
it.
it
Got it.
comes to active ingredients, the way that we have strategized our research with ingredients is to kind of say, right, we are a small company today. We do have the expertise tomorrow to be able to create from scratch active ingredients, right? We hope we will have the opportunity and the finances to do that. But Where we sit today, we have to work with what exists. Like, we can't recreate everything. We look at active ingredients, and we see how the strategy from men's cream is kind of to go with that hero ingredient, really high concentration, right? Again, that may work for white skin because of their setup. But what our research showed us is that melanin, this pigment called melanin, does not agree with this attitude, this approach. Why? Because melanin is a protector of the skin. Melanin is a master antioxidant. As a protector, melanin offers many benefits. Again, aging benefits. The reason why we age better than white people is because we have that inherent protection, right? Someone who has white skin that goes under the sun, you can be sure that by age 30, they will have wrinkles, which is not the same
That
for
is so
me.
true.
Not to say we shouldn't wear sunscreen, but it is a genetic advantage for people of color. And so melanin being a protector is going to protect us against UV radiation, but also against any kind of inflammation or aggression. The skin doesn't make a difference. Is it the sun? I will produce melanin to protect you. Did you scrub your face too hard? Did you have acne? After the acne scar happens. Inflammation brings dark spots. If you use skincare ingredient that is irritating or too highly concentrated, a backlash happen. The skin produces excess melanin to protect you. So when you understand this very specific fact about melanin, you cannot go around and start creating products that have all of the irritants, that have the bleaching agents, and I know that bleaching the skin is a very big thing, like in Africa and Asia, or that can really antagonize the skin because you get the backlash. You always get the backlash. So what is the strategy, and how can you kind of work around these cells that we call the melanocytes? They're kind of the boss of our melanin. They are the little the cells that produce the melanin pigment. They are very robust in darker skin tones. They're very active. The minute they sense inflammation, they start producing more melanin. So how do you deliver efficacy without antagonizing the melanocytes? And that's really how we work with our active ingredients. And so it's really been a process of creating complexes that have what is this is a technique used in the pharmaceutical world when they create a molecule to cure disease. They see that if you take one molecule at a too high concentration, you increase the chance of the body rejecting it because it's too much. But if you are working with different molecules that are a little bit similar but different, lower concentration, you increase the body's acceptance of the treatment. So this is the same technique that we use with how we put complexes with active ingredient together. When we create, for example, a hyperpigmentation product, instead of saying, here is vitamin C or kojic acid at 10%, which we know is going to work, we're going to create this beautiful, well-rounded complex with melanin inhibitors at lower level, anti-inflammatories, antioxidants, gentle exfoliators, all of that on the bed of great water, great texture agent, great conservation system. And that's why our product deliver the high level of efficacy that they do. And then we are sure that this system is highly biocompatible in terms of having a really high level of ingredient purity. How are the ingredients extracted? Because I can have vitamin C here, which is a pure, stabilized, nano-free, nanoparticle-free vitamin C. And I can have vitamin C here who doesn't have the same thing. Both are going to come out vitamin C on my packaging, but they're doing completely different things for the skin. If I take olive oil, which is amazing for the skin, my olive oil is sourced in Tunisia. It is unfiltered, cold press, still has all the nutrient and the vitamins in olive oil. This other olive oil, hot press, overly filtered. When you put it on the skin, that's going to change the sebum composition of the skin. The skin will reject it. It will clog your pore. You will get acne. Both are olive oil. So our work, I always say that with skincare, the devil's is in the details, and we do this very detailed work around the ingredients to really create this effective structure that meets the structural and functional differences of people of color. And then we always make sure that we are testing on the different phototypes, because what we also see, say, people of color have a different skin than white skin, but within the 456, there are differences as well. Look at me, I'm a phototype 6, much darker than yourself. You are a phototype 5, and you are of Indian descent, I'm of Cameroonian descent. There are nuances in our skin, genetic nuances that are also going to create certain clashes. And that's why we create some of our products per phototype. So like if you're 4, this is your declination. A 5, this is yours. A 6, this is yours. So yeah, that is really the core of our research today when it comes to skincare. And we've also been rolling out research for sunscreen, which is a massive issue for people of color all over the world, where we've gone from an industry that told us, you don't need sunscreen because you're people of color, you're protected too, you need sunscreen, but like white people. But what is the nuance in the middle where if you have melanin in your skin, you need sun energy. We do need sun energy. The implications for your health, for your skin metabolism are quite grave if you don't have sun energy. But if you over expose, then you can get skin damage as well. And the sunscreen system today is not tested for darker skin tone. It's not suitable for darker skin tones for many, many reasons. And we've also been working on that research piece of how can we create a biocompatible sunscreen for darker skin tones that is clean and that doesn't have this thing called white cast, right? And that is just, amazing to use. And that's something that we're going to be releasing next year. So we've been
That's great.
busy. We have our body line coming with the same concerns, like how do we treat hyperpigmentation, how do we treat acne in the body, and there's a lot more coming with like nutraceuticals. So
Yeah.
yeah, we are very busy. Our work is in the details because we really really believe that the foundation of skincare needs a massive review, and the industry is not doing it right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think, I mean, there is a lot of information for me as well as for our audiences to grasp here. But one thing that I understood was the the game is not in any one component of the cosmetic that you guys are designing, but it is actually the innovation is throughout all the 4 layers, be it the vitalizing white water that you guys are working on, be it the texture component, and I have seen so many news articles where microplastics have been found even in embryos. I mean, so that's a
Yes.
huge issue,
Yeah.
and I would call
Right
your
there.
innovation to be a responsible innovation. And then I was enthralled to hear all of
Yes.
these things on the innovation part. With respect to the balancing act that you do on the last layer, I remember working on some similar problems where we were working on retinol, which is anti-aging properties. It's known for the anti-aging properties, but it also is known for its irritating nature to the skin, and there might be some inflammation
Yep.
there. And one of the things that,
Absolutely. And
yeah, go ahead. I was just going to mention that
yes,
one of the things that we found
yes,
as a solution in a research paper from a university was that they were using similar hybridization methods where they were using derivatives and complexes of retinol which were not so irritating, so that the mixture in general is also balanced for
yes,
pH as well as for the irritation part. One question that popped up in my mind, actually there were two questions. One on the water part. You mentioned that there is 70% water in the cosmetics, which is very true. But when we were looking at trends as part of some of our research, what we observed was that a lot of big players are going towards waterless cosmetics. I mean, is that something that you have an opinion on right now? How does that factor into the
yeah,
future developments?
yeah. Yeah, we're not. We haven't really researched the waterless cosmetic. I mean, it's waterless, but if you're using plant extract, it's usually it's waterless, as in we're not using aqua. We're not using demineralized water, aqua, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And we see this with a lot of East Asian cosmetics, like K beauty, Japanese beauty.
yes,
Use this a lot where they will. prioritize the use of plant extract, and that the plant extract would be the base of the formulation and not the water. Again, is about looking at how the plant is extracted, what is the actual component of the extract. But if good, I think it's still a much stronger value proposition than the mineralized water. We just feel so strongly about vitalized water, right? And combining it with plant extract, which we use a lot. We use a lot of plant extract,
Yeah.
and we see this really nice balance being found with that combination of vitalized water and then prioritizes plant extract. But we haven't gone with that decision to take away water because we think our water is amazing. It just is.
That makes sense.
And we understand that, I think the brands that are going this route, they understand that the mineralized water is useless, really, for the skin. It's good for the formula, for mixing purposes and for textures, but for the skin, it's kind of a zero-sum game, basically. And so you get more efficacy, more penetrability, more bioavailability with the plant extract. And that is something that I completely agree with. But our water is the bomb, and we see that mixing it with plant extract actually works beautifully for the skin. So no, we've never gone that 100 like no water thing. It's because we have the vitalized water. Yeah.
Understood. That
And to
makes
kind
sense.
of go back
And
on your
yeah.
comment on retinol,
Yes.
very a very popular ingredient here. I have customers calling me every day, why don't you have a retinol product? Blah, 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 retinol. We're studying this ingredient and kind of holding back because yeah, an amazing all around ingredient, anti-aging, anti-acne. It does it all. But we do not have any scientific report today giving us the evidence that raw material manufacturers have tested retinol on darker skin tones. And so, okay to use retinol with with like professional supervision. I think that's fine. But in cosmetic, over the counter cosmetic that you use every day, we just see the effects of retinol that are really bad, especially on darker skin tones. By the way, the EU just recently banned products that have over 1% retinol in them. And I
Wow.
think they
Yeah.
were nice because that if it was me, I would have gone no more than 0.2 or 0.3% because we've researched this and we see that, okay, maybe okay at this concentration, but then you don't quite get the efficacy, at that concentration. So the EU has banned it over 1%. And I think that's a massive indication there that for the EU to go and say no products in the whole of the European Union can be sold if they have over 1% retinol. It tells you that all of the reports that have been coming over the year saying that retinol has negative impacts on the skin, they have been validated. So we're happy that we're not doing it. We're doing alternatives. We're really good with finding alternatives. So like retinol, there's alternative. Quinone, which is another one that people love in the US, we really just despise that ingredient. It's been banned in Europe as well, used everywhere. We find alternatives. There are alternatives. They're just more costly and they're more complicated to formulate with. But we're lucky to have the expertise in being able to do that in-house. So yeah.
Well, I mean, that's very, very encouraging to hear, Noeli. I think there are two more questions that I wanted to ask you on the product side. One is, what is your grounds on the year? So usually, I mean, when I have encountered clients from the cosmetic industry, it's usually the marketing department who actually gives them, hey, I mean, this is what we are getting from social media listening. This is what people are reacting to. This is what influencer is saying about your product. I mean, there is blacklisting in certain geography that is happening because of XYZ reasons. So what's your ear on the ground right now? Because I mean, you are still in phase two. Is there, so maybe the question is there direct user feedback being gathered in during the product development, or is it mostly the research base and the labs that you have
Yeah,
tested on? What's on that front? I mean, if you can shed some light.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is our community is an integral part of our R&D and iteration. And this is what I was mentioning before about this customization. That's why we did it. So like we're going to customize this. You're going to take this quiz. Let us know all about you. What's your phototype, your skin type, your concerns, right? Tell us what you've been using, how long you've had this concern. We want to know about your lifestyle because that has massive implications on skin health, right? Let us know if you have any health condition that might be fueling inflammation and impacting your skin. We got all of this information and we were actually customizing products, selling them to the customer and putting them in a feedback loop. And this feedback is how we've been improving and iterating. And we have still today this system, we're actually going through it right now because we have a new product launching in September. Once we have a product that's been finalized and the preliminary testings are done, we always gather our community and say, hey guys, this is coming out soon. We want you to try it, to use it, experiences, come back with the feedback, which we can iterate before it goes live. You have no idea how much people are so excited to participate, right? It's also like a lot of noise when then people come with everything and anything. Oh, we don't need this. We want you to do that, etc. You kind of have to cut through the noise, but that's always been part of our R&D. And we also kind of follow customers' push for new products, right? Like I'm telling you about this retinol. Customers kept asking, we want something with retinol. We say, okay, we need to figure out how we can produce something that does the same effect as retinol, but it's not retinol because we don't believe in retinol. And our Max Glow product came to be just like that. Same way, I never believed in toners. I've always found toners to be just like product that really aggravate the skin for no reason. And they were created because cleansers use really harsh surfactant that kind of changed the pH of the skin. And so the toner was supposed to rebalance the pH. So I was like, my cleansers actually do not antagonize your pH. In fact, we have made sure that our cleansers respect the unique pH of darker skin tones, which is more acidic. So we don't need a toner right now. You're fine. But people keep pushing and we're like, all right, we're going to create a toner, but we're actually going to tweak it and make it something that is more than a toner, right? That boosts your glow, that boosts hydration. We always go back to hydration. So we listen to the community, but we also have this attitude where we don't want to get into following all the trends of this industry because every 6 months there's a new trend. And then all the brands are going brrr, and then 6 months after new trend. And then we we first of all, we don't have the capacity to follow and we do not believe in them. And it's also always going back to the why we're here. The mission is to close the skincare research equity gap. You know, we need to work on the fundamentals before we start going trend. Like the fundamentals are not there yet. So we get all of those reports of this is trending. We look at them. We trying to cross-analyze this information with like, is our community like on board with this? Do they want this or do they not? And we made decisions, looking at both this information, what is needed and where the customer is going, because you kind of have to meet the customer where they are as well. If they want something, then it's your job to make sure that you are meeting the need, but while still being very true to your mission, right? Not follow the trends. So yeah, and sometimes you have amazing surprises like this new ingredient. I mean, it's not as new, but it's become mainstream recently, called tranexamic acid. And we were so excited when we got it and we were testing. I was like, yes, finally, something that we think we can use. This is going to work beautifully for our skin. We can integrate it. So that's how we work with trends. We make a conscious decision not to follow all of them. A lot of them are bogus. They are useless. They just fuel SKU proliferation in this industry. And I think that our industry is already impacting the environment a lot. We don't need more SKUs out there that are going to live for 6 months, be hot for 6 months, and be gone. So we really try to do fundamental work.
Understood, and that's very thoughtful in terms of of having a mission, right? I mean, again, the mission too seems to be very, very responsible. So thank you for that. Uh, Again, I mean, this is just a tidbit that I wanted to add. So I was actually monitoring some innovations from Samsung, and I saw that
Yeah.
they now have an app that actually analyzes your skin tone, skin quality through
Yes.
artificial intelligence. Do you guys plan to use
Yes.
high tech apart from the very, very scientific research that you guys are doing? Are you planning
Yeah.
to integrate AI in some capacity? Because that seems to be the trend. Again, I
We
mean,
have.
yeah.
Yes, obviously, with us having a skin quiz, right, and having customization, this is something we've been looking into for the past years. And we've had a lot of companies contact and say, hey, you guys are doing something amazing. We have all this data, we have the tool. Can we do a better test? And we're always like, yeah, let's test. To be honest with you, I am still, seriously, if you have a good tool that does the job well, I am so open to testing and investing in it because we really think that it would simplify our system so much. But the reality, again, these tools are not skin tone inclusive. They really are not. They can scan all kinds of things, but the way they have been developed and set up, it's like this is a darker skin tone. This is a black person. How do you see hyperpigmentation on this darker skin? Right? No, seriously, we've done this test and we're like, I have a dark spot here, and the system wouldn't spot it because to the system, I'm just this like black dot altogether, right? And these are also areas of inclusivity. But I think we don't talk about a lot how technology and AI is moving forward so fast and is creating so many opportunities. But again, these tools often are not skin tone inclusive. So we are always on the look for the right one. So if you know a tool that's doing the job that can create an instant diagnosis just with like I take a photo and this tool can tell me the phototype of the person and we can feed them the information. We're happy to train them, be like, hey, this is a 5, this is a 6, this is a 1, a 2. Are they able to analyze the skin to look at the skin texture and determine that this is the nature of the pores. Are they widened? Are they in a good shape? What's lying under the skin? Is this clogged skin, right? Or the skin is clean? Do you have hyperpigmentation? Is the skin dry or dehydrated? Two completely separate things. We've always tried, and I have spent so many hours with companies coming and be like, yeah, we want to test the system. And when we start the testing and I start challenging them on the reality of, darker skin tones and what needs to be done, they kind of just retreat and be, yeah, we're going to work on our improvement and we touch base again with you in 6 months. They never come back. No one has come back so far. So if you have a good tool, I'm happy. I'm so
I'll
happy to
be
give it a try.
sure. I'll be more than happy to share my notes. So we have a research. I'll share that report with you, and I'll also let you know what are the limitations of each of these tools and apps that we found during our research. So that will give you at least a go no go kind of decision making. I'll share that with you. And so, Noeli, I mean, you have made this conversation really, really easy for me, right? I mean, it's that, I mean, you have so much grasp on your innovation, on your product that I did not have to ask a lot of questions. But I wanted to shift gears and maybe take 5, 10 more minutes of yours and ask you about the business side of things, right? So you did mention there are new products in September. You mentioned about the sunscreen part, but in general, I wanted to ask you. I mean, you are in a world which is already pretty populated with a lot of companies out there, and a lot of them are actually giants,
Yes.
international giants. So, what's the plan going forward? But before that, what kind of challenges did you face so far? Right, coming into this industry and actually making a
Yeah.
name which is very, very published. I mean, I looked at
Yeah.
all the places that you guys have been featured. So, how did you make that journey? What were the challenges
Yeah.
in general?
Money. Money. Money, obviously, money has always been a challenge. It's a very expensive industry to be in, especially when you are a brand, a researcher, a manufacturer. testing body, you're doing everything, and then you have a platform that you have to leverage as well to create sales. So money, it's been the main challenge for us. I'm not going to surprise you if I tell you that it's a lot more challenging for founders of color to raise money in the West. It's even more so challenging for women of color to raise money in the West. I think the last year in the UK, the percentage started with a 0 point of women of color that were able to raise money, compared to the white counterparts. And then when you have this intersectional project, which is it's a beauty project, which often the male investors, which is the main investors again in the West, doesn't really vibe with that, and then it's a beauty product for people of color, which usually the male investor doesn't really know what we're talking about. So, and then you have the challenges of growth as well, because when you made the decision to focus on the research, right, and the product and your foundation, then obviously you're investing less money on that commercial growth. So that's made fundraising really challenging. We're lucky to have some really strong investors on board that have been supporting. So yeah, I would say that is the biggest challenge: is the money. Is the money to fund. We have so many amazing ideas and amazing research that we can leverage, but that you kind of have to do it step by step. And then the challenge of money also means that getting the right people on board, the right expertise, the right seniority level to help you is challenging. And you kind of live in a system where, as the CEO, you are everything. Myself and my co-founders, we all have like 6 different jobs within the company, right?
I
We just
understand.
like that's it. I oversee the research. I kind of have to understand the quality process, what's going on with our accreditation, the production, the raw materials, and then what's going on with the manufacturer, and then with the e-commerce, the site. I'm in the middle of it. I'm doing PR. I'm doing content creation. Sometimes I have to do customer service. So we do everything. We're still really like founders, because you can't have all the people that we need, and that links to money being a challenge. But I think it's just the life of any startup recently, because it's become really
Yeah,
complicated to raise funds.
yeah, that makes
And
sense. Yeah,
in terms of what is the objective with 456,
yeah,
we are very aware that this brand is of interest to so many players in the industry that sees we're doing something completely different, something that is necessary. I have a lot of girlfriends that work within those giant in the industry, for the Estee Lauders and the L'Oreal and the LVMH, and they always call me like, "Hey, we just got our competition reports again for the up and coming brands, and 456 is still like to watch, brands to watch, to watch." So we know that the interest is there. We know that for the mega giants of the industry to have the kind of research that we do, they can never do it themselves. It's just not possible, right? It requires such a 360 shifts, and they have to deal with bureaucracies and layers of admin. It doesn't happen. So acquisition is the only way for them to get this. But we're not there yet. Our plans are keep growing our community, keep growing our online platform, launch the brand in retail, do the retail launch and really land it with impact, because that then opens up other retail's avenue. We want to take the brand to the US. We want to take the brand to the Middle East. We want to take the brand to South Asia. We want to take the brand where people of 456 can live, right? And it's kind of this very strategic step by step approach that we have taken. We're very careful with what we do with this brand. If we wanted to go fast and furious, I would have said yes to this distributor saying, "I'm going to distribute you in Asia." We'll be like diluting the brand. We don't want to do that. We're very self-conscious of, we need to take care of this and make sure that it's taking the right steps. So the future for us is that retail activation, retail amplification, and getting our distribution system in place. And then which is going to allow us to to finance all of our research. And I don't know if 456 is going to end up exiting to a giant or exiting to a VC, but we do know that with everything that we're doing now being implemented and a brand becoming more and more successful, these are opportunities that we will have very easily. But our minds are not there yet. Our minds are, how can we put the 456 skin product in the hand of every person of color that needs it in the world? And that's really our focus right now.
Understood. And I think strategy wise, you have a very good clarity on where you are moving from here at present. One last question that I had was with respect to the patent aspect, the patent filing, the,
Yes.
yes, okay. Yeah. So I think a
Yes.
lot of large corporations believe in filing patents left and right and then figuring
Yeah.
out products out of that. What's your patent filing strategy? Because, I mean, when you talked about your secret ingredients being vitalizing water and then basically innovation in all the layers, if it is out there
Yeah.
as a patent, a lot of people will see that. But if it is not out there as a patent, somebody has somebody can reverse engineer it, figure it out, copy it, maybe, I don't know. So it's kind of a conundrum that a lot of startup founders
It
face
is.
specifically, yeah, when you have
Yes.
secret ingredients and
It
a
is a
novel
huge
product.
conundrum.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a huge conundrum patent. We had these discussions back and forth with the board. Our board was just like, you guys need to protect this. You have to patent this. This is too good. It needs to be patented. And my view with patents are okay, I have very controversial opinions about a lot of things. This is probably one of them.
I'm
I think the
curious.
patterns are really good. They are good for the game. They are good for the game. They kind of give this perceived competitive advantage. They can encourage investment. They can portray this image of market differentiation, some sort of legal protection. But
Yes.
when you get behind the system of patterns, because we've explored it, because we I wanted to understand, I was like, well, what are really this about? When you explore and you understand how patent works, you can do the patent. First of all, it costs whole lots of money. As a
Yes.
startup, you have to make a choice. Do you want to build your platform and build your customer base, or do you want to patent? Like, which one is gonna what's gonna help you more? Having your customers' validation of your product, or having a patent saying this is amazing? You have to make that choice. We made the choice to go with the people at the receiving end of this, right? Well, the thing with patents is also you patent something, you actually make it visible to everyone. Everyone
Yes.
has access to your IP. They can take it, tweak something, and run with it. It is theirs, right? So that that was the second thing. And between the politics of patents, how much it costs, and the fact that it doesn't really offer any real protection, we were like, we're going to invest our money into something else. Right now, I think our best protection is secrecy.
Yeah.
We've had people from other companies come and order our products, and we'll be like, we know you work for them. Go get the product and try to copy it. But
Yeah.
it would take them a minute, a long, long minute for them to come up with our formula the way we do it. And they may use the same ingredients, but it's
Yeah.
never going to be the same thing. So we kind of chose that. We use this envelope solo. It's a system
Hmm.
of protection that exists in France, that says tomorrow. Let's say we get our sunscreen out tomorrow, but okay, the sunscreen is a different conversation. I will explain why. We get our 456 complexes, which are kind of like, reading my ingredient list, you're never going to understand the system that we build behind these complexes. If you try to copy that and I see it, I'm like, no, 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 this is, you're doing this the same way I do it, then I can sue in France, if I have the time, the energy, and money to sue and say, this is my envelope solo. I actually protected this process, these industrial processes were formulating before, so therefore you can't use this if you have the time. No one does, really. So we did the envelope solo, decided not to go with the patent for all of our products. But for our sunscreen, which we're really doing something that is very, very truly different, right? This is something that we have talked with the investors and say, hey, sunscreen is too much of a big deal, right? It's so crucial that we protect this. I think we would put a patent on the way that we have created our organic filter with our sunscreen. So we will patent that because any big brand can look at this and say, what? They have done this. There's no white cast, no plastics, no nanos, and this is a mineral sunscreen. How are they doing it? So they can actually get this formula and start figuring out how to get close to it. And we've invested too much in this sunscreen. We've been working on this for the past 3.5 years. So we want to protect that. But patent for us, I think, is a nice to have, which we can do when there's money available to do that. Right now, I think our money is put to better use working on products and growing our community. Yeah.
That makes absolute sense, Noelly.
It's a nice to have. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the brands that go after the patent is mostly because they don't have much to offer. It's
yeah,
like I have to have the patent to give myself credibility. We have the credibility. We know we don't
yeah.
need the patents for this, but we also understand that the industry values this, so we'll do it where we feel it's absolutely necessary.
Understood. That makes sense. I think the only reason I was asking about this is that, I mean, since I have been encountering a lot of companies whose IP is much more valuable than the company itself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because they filed at the right time, they had the pioneer advantage, like you guys are working on the 456 screen, and sometimes when the businesses is not doing good, the patent actually has the real value. But again, I mean, I think that's simply an information or a fact from the past. What I observe with you is that you have figured out your strategy according to your products and according to the complexity of the innovations that you guys are doing. That's a very good strategy to have, because simply
Yeah.
blanket filing of patent is an expenditure. I mean, you will not, you'll be surprised that how many large corporates come to us and ask us, hey, I mean, we have 15,000 patents. Tell us
Yeah,
which
because
ones to kill.
they have nothing else to offer.
Yeah. But
You do not have something really interesting to offer. And so we do a patent. Why? So we can communicate that
yes,
we have a patent, which gives this perception that we're doing something interesting. So when we come out with something and say, oh, I didn't look at this molecule, we've kind of taken something we already had. It's the marketing people that come and say, let's recreate this and make it look this way. But the actual impact of what's been created in the formula on the skin is very little. So it's really nice for big company because they have the money, not a lot of true innovation. So it helps with the marketing, but for smaller brand like us, in due time, right? In due time with the patents, not right now.
that's a well thought of strategy, Nurli. And I think, I mean, those were the questions that sums up my curiosity in general about 456 skin. But you have been very generous with your time, and you have been very, very forthcoming with explaining all the things that are going on at 456 skin. Uh, I wish you all the best. I will keep an eye out for 456, and I'll remind the world when you grow so big that I interviewed you guys. But very good talking to you, Noeli, and very informative. And I think audiences in general will
Likewise.
find this very helpful.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Vikash. Thank you. It was nice meeting you. Bye bye.